So how to use DevOps GitHub repository. So DevOps is a Azure related things. We are not learning DevOps here, but one of the feature in DevOps. So who are doing Azure complete course, lot of features are there in DevOps. You will be learning in Azure. But one of the feature in DevOps is GitHub repository. So how to store our site into our application into GitHub repository, that we are going to learn, and how to manage it. Like suppose new thing you developed, how to put it into it, other people how they will get it. If one repository is maintained, how all the developers can clone it. So this kind of things we will be learning today. So GitHub repository management. So step first you have to create Microsoft account. Usually because you practice as a student, right? If you are already working in a company, then obviously your company email ID will be your Microsoft account. They will take care of that. So all the portal or links, whatever I am going to tell you here, that will be accessed through your company user ID password. Whatever user ID password you use for login into computer, same user ID password most of the companies they will be sharing as the Microsoft user ID. Or some companies they offer different user ID password for Microsoft account. It totally depend upon your company policy. But currently you are a student, so you don't have any infrastructure ready, you have no investment, nothing, you want free account, right? So create one Microsoft free account and sign up with the portal.azure.com. It will take some information from you, including credit card number. It will deduct only 2 rupees from you, and that 2 rupees it will return back when 1 month will be completed. So that is their policy. So once that is done, then today whatever I am saying that will be applicable. So create Microsoft account along with portal access. Portal means portal.azure.com, portal.azure.com. So once that is ready, then you have to follow these steps. So first is GitHub repository. So for accessing DevOps, you have to access the URL dev.azure.com. If by chance you have not created this account, okay, this one portal.azure.com activation of the free account, then the moment you will type dev.azure.com, it will suddenly take you to here only. It will say that first you register your portal with free account, after that only come here, because this needs some free account, any account, free account or payment based account, whatever account, right? So I have already used that login user ID password and I have already come to DevOps environment. You can see this is the one. Now parallelly what we will do, we will create one solution also which we want to put there. So go to your Visual Studio, create any of the example solution and then put it there. Imagine first time your team lead or somebody is creating a project, preparing the architecture, and he wants to put it into GitHub repository. After that only all other developers will take it to their local computer, right? So let's create one application, any of the application, MVC or anything, whatever your plan, you create it. Should I name it as example app for Git? Any name I gave. Some sound is coming. So just go ahead. Developer, whatever you want to develop. at the beginning level. Most of times it will be preparing architecture and some of the high-end development your technical lead or project manager will do, and then add it into a repository. So now while it is creating, let's come here. You can see, since I used that user ID, it is giving me as a member. Imagine your team is having 20 members. Then here right side you can see invite. You can go and invite whomever you want to invite. But that guy also should have Microsoft user ID. Okay. So if you are working 20 people in a company, obviously all 20 email IDs will be Microsoft account. So that email ID you start typing and it will take you. Okay. Currently it is showing only one member has been added. So you can go on adding. This add button will be activated the moment you type a correct Microsoft account. So that is how to add the members into team. Once you added the members into team, then you have to go for uh, something called project. If you see project setting extremely below, so go to project setting. Little slow, running today under hotspot, guys. So under project you can make a couple of settings, like which member you want to give what facility, somebody developer, somebody tester. So you can go and use these facilities. This is called project setting. Permissions, team members. Okay, so these are all various project settings. If you want to go for project configuration, there are various sprints. Sprint means 15 days once or 3 weeks once you will have a sprint planning, that in this particular sprint one what are the things going to be delivered, etc. So here you can go and set the dates, on which date we are going to take, start date is what, end date is what, and so on. So these are all called project settings. That means it is one time activity and you have to set it. Now come to repository. If you go to repository, go to files, you will see the path of the repository. Okay, whatever your path you can see here, this is HTTPS. So your user ID will be embedded with this path as well. So whenever you want to clone anything, then you have to take this path and clone it there. Clone means like you added 20 members and each member wants to get this repository, then you have to clone it. So for cloning you can say that, okay, on what technology I am cloning. You can say Visual Studio because you are using Visual Studio. Then the moment you go ahead, then it will start cloning into Visual Studio. So let me do an example. So here you go. Now add something. I'll take this URL of my website and keep it somewhere. This is the URL of your Devops, which is indicating to this particular user ID, right? Now come here and make sure that you have logged on through that account only. You can compare once, same user ID here and same user ID there. Okay, 5302, something like that. Then close it. First to prepare your first copy of your project, whatever it is. Suppose I want to create one example controller and example view, just to make sure that our application is running. So let's create a controller and give some name. My example controller. This time I'm just taking one example controller and example view. Model and all I'm not preparing. If you have, you can do. So think that you are preparing the architecture of the application and then first time you are putting into GitHub repository. So what I did, I have to create a view. And just empty without any model or anything. Add it. Nothing much I'm developing. I'm just putting one example view with one example controller. Just understand the process. Taking some time. So whichever repository you are using here, whichever user ID you are using here, you have to make sure that that user ID you are creating there. I mean, log into Visual Studio as well. Unless you log into Visual Studio same user ID, it cannot, handshake with this repository. Okay, so something we just created, and we will just give this as our default controller. Just check once whether things is in place. Okay. So your application is working. Just you checked once. Now what you have to do is you have to add your source, application into source control. So there is one option extremely below. If you see in the Visual Studio, there will be one option called add to source control. Give me a minute. Yeah, go to Visual Studio. I'll take this ribbon little up. Extremely below you see adds, add project to source control. So when you go here, it will ask you where you want to put. We are going to put into Azure DevOps, right? So if it is same, then it will ask you what is your repository name you want to give. Example underscore app underscore for git. This is the application name. So by default, it will take the same as the application name. Okay. Now you can say push your code to Azure DevOps. Create and push. Nothing much complicated. Just click on that, and since both side you have login same name, same user ID, so it will take it automatically. It will understand that okay, wherever this email ID has been mapped, that repository should contain it. Now here you go and go to files. Go to the project now. You can see here whatever the features you want to activate, it is almost on. Okay, boards, repos, pipeline, test plan, artifacts. So boards means, as I said, this is not DevOps course, so we are not going to learn all these things. But yeah, these are all various special features of DevOps. Okay, uh, we are learning this repos. So if you see left side, one toolbox is there. There, this is called repos. So under files, you can see the files and so on. Now what I will do is I will go to DevOps files. Okay, and here what I will do is I will just make a clone of it. Let me refresh it once more. I'll just log in again. So dev.azure.com. Okay, so now it is asking, is it the one you want to log in? By default it will take. Then do you want to create a new project? You can click here and create a new project also. And when we say new project, each application, like one repository can have multiple application also. You can go for new project creation as well. Suppose I will say my test project. Some description. This project is to show repos features. That's it. You give it, and visibility, whether public or private. By default private. Click on create. Right, so this is your test project what you developed. And if you want to add more members into this project, you can go for invite, as I said. So every project will have 20 members, 15 members, 10 members. You go on adding invite every user once, so that all the team members will be shown here under the members, right? So your DevOps activation is ready, your blank project test project is ready, and you already mapped your Visual Studio with the test that GitHub repository as well. Now what you have to do, you have to check in, check out, and so on, right? So if you see here, there is something called git changes. Okay, anything if you are creating newly, then it will show under changes. You can see here 2 outgoing, 0 incoming. That indicates we have 2 things to push into GitHub and 0 things additional in the GitHub. Imagine your friend is putting 2 more things, then it will say 2 outgoing and 2 incoming. So this outgoing, first of all, I will push it into GitHub repository. So whichever repository it has mapped, it will go and push it into it. So for a better clarification, it will ask you, do you really want to push to this repository? Then sign in once. Now it will take, and all your files, whatever just now you wanted to push into repository, it will go and sit in that repository. Now come to repository. So it is a connection between your Visual Studio and your GitHub repository. So now I will go to files. So under the files, if you see here, you can see mine test project, and if you want to create new repository also, you can create new repository here. So when you want to manage all the repository whatever you have created, you can go to manage repository also. So these are various if you want to create a new repository, you can create here also. All these facilities it will provide to you. Now coming to there will be something called branches. Under this, let me refresh once more. My test project. Okay, we are in my test project. We have to go to other one. We have to go to this one because we are pushing the data into this one. Now go to repos. Under this you select the GitHub repository one. So our repository name was example underscore app underscore for underscore git. So I selected that one. Once I selected that one, under branches it will show you currently you have one branch which is master branch. If you see here, you can see there is something called branch. So branch means under what labeling you want to keep your files. So branch. So once you log into this application, go to your select the required repository name, then keep your repository path ready to use later. Like I copy pasted it, you can keep it, which can be used later. I'm just writing the steps what you have to do. Then come to Visual Studio, click on add project to source control. Make sure you have logged in using same user ID as your Devops user ID. Okay, Visual Studio also you have to log on using same user ID what you have logged on using Devops. Now once this mapping is ready, then you come to Devops. Now in Devops, select the repository name from dropdown. Okay, so if you see in my dropdown, there are a couple of repository. One is with the name of the email ID, whatever it is. One is example app for Git. So my data push is in example app for Git. Can I see here bottom? So my project has been put. So when we will push this, that time it will ask you under which repository you want to put. So by default, it will take your project name. If you want, you can rename it to something else also. So this time I have taken my project name. So I have to select that. So in Devops, select repository name in the drop down. Once you selected that, then go to branch. So currently we have only one branch means labeling. Okay, suppose today I made some changes and push it, tomorrow I will make some more changes and push it. So there will be two labelings, two branches I can create and push accordingly. So currently you can see master branch, this is the name of the branch. So as long as you are not creating any branch, it will go and sit in the master branch. So go to branch, select the required branch. Default is master. Because we have not yet created any branch, so it has automatically taken into master. Okay, so if you click on master branch, now it will show you those files what was there in your Visual Studio. So as of now, this much you have posted, right? Now if you already post as a team lead, suppose now there are 10 more members, they have to be part of this project, then they will clone this, right? So for cloning, if you go to this clone button right side, first of all you go to your own repository where you want to clone it, and if you click on clone, it will give you that path of the cloning, right? Can I see here? Just select this path, copy it. So next is how other members or other team members can clone the newly added project. Clone means to their laptop they should map it, right? So for that you have to copy the clone path. So our clone path is this one, I just copied, and go to Visual Studio and clone it. So how to clone it? Go to Visual Studio now. In Visual Studio, but this is already team leads. Imagine team lead has just put this into repository. Now one more team member is coming, suppose. Okay, I will close this. You assume that team lead has completed his work. Okay, now another member who is supposed to take this cloning, he logged on into his computer and he has internet. Now he has Visual Studio also, so he went to Visual Studio. Now under Visual Studio, when that second member went, okay, first option clone a repository is there, go to that, then whichever path you have copied from there, you just put it here. Okay, then it will ask you in which folder you want to clone it. Now you have to give one local path. Suppose I want to give it in documents. Okay, documents. Let me create a new folder here. I will name it as test clone project. Any folder you just create in your local drive, either D drive, E drive, C drive, wherever, and there you just select the folder. Okay, that means from this path to this path it will clone it. Now click on clone. So this time I am doing as a second member of the team. First member, I assume that I was team lead and I pushed my architecture of the project. Development has not started, think it that way, and when all the team members will map that, then as usual your software development lifecycle will be started. So this is how preparing the resources in GitHub repository, then mapping your Visual Studio solution for first time to the GitHub repository, then how other members can take it up and then clone it to their respective system. So now onwards, when that second guy will come, he will go to his mapped folder. Like I mapped it in documents, so he will go to that and he will go to that folder, and from here itself he will clone, open it directly. Right click and open with Visual Studio 2022. So automatically it will get connected with the repository. You don't need to do anything because you have cloned it from repository only. So if you see extremely below, automatically it will say that you have been already connected with GitHub repository, and your currently selected branch is master branch, and so on. So these are the symbols that you are already with GitHub repository. This symbol is for GitHub repository. If you take it, it will tell you in which repository path you have connected to. Now imagine this second guy who's a developer, he wanted to change something, right? He wanted to add one new file, suppose here. One model class he wanted to add, suppose. So right click, add a model. This is called new changes. Now, okay, one more thing before proceeding. This new changes, you want it in master branch or in other branch, that also matters. So most of cases, master branch will not be disturbed. It will be kept as the first checked in branch. Then whatever developers are doing, they should create a new branch on top of the master branch. Then they will make their changes. Why? Because imagine after 2-3 days, you came to know that because of your changes, some exceptional mistakes or something happened. They want to revert it back. Then it will be easier instead of everybody comes and merge in master branch. So I will show you how to create a branch and make your changes. So click on new branch and give a branch name. Every company and their project team must be having some naming convention. Somebody will say first letter will be capital, then small, separator will be underscore. Somebody will say separator will be dash. Like that, they may suggest you the naming standard. So suppose general naming standard is small letter with dash as the separator. So I will say um, uh, I will say FIRST, first developers. Okay, first developer changes, something like that. You give some name, and based on master means under master. That means master things will come plus additional things you can add into this new branch. So the moment I created the branch, it will show my branch name, whatever I gave. Most of times this branch name will be given on what changes you want. Imagine you are adding a model called product. So this can be named as add dash product dash model, like that it can be. So that by seeing the name itself, you will come to know what changes usually happened in this branch. So I will add now. Now this class will be added under the branch called first developer changes. So suppose I added a class called product, and just for example 1 or 2 property I'm just putting here. Okay, whatever changes you needed, suppose you have changed it, then you tested it one round, it is working fine. Make sure that before pushing it to the GitHub repository, you have built the application once. If error is there, never push it. So build the application once, if necessary debug it, if necessary run it, whatever you want to do, do it. So once you came to know that my changes are working fine in local and it is error free, then you have to push it. So how to push it? 2 steps. First you have to go to git changes. Here you can see all the changes. If there are 5 files, then 5 changes it will show. Currently it is showing 1 change. So give a comment, added product model class, some comment, and then commit all. Okay, push will happen in two steps. One is first commit, then push. So once committed, you can see one outgoing. That means it is supposed to be pushed now into GitHub repository. So click on this push arrow mark. Now it will take and make the changes into the GitHub repository. Successfully delivered. Now go to your GitHub repository. Alright, so refresh it. Currently we are in master branch. You can see here from the drop down. So you will not see that product class here somewhere. You will not see because we are in master branch. Now if I will go to our branch, first developer changes, here you can see, okay, whatever the changes you got it. It is saying that here you made some changes. Okay, so it will tell you just now what changes you did. 21 minutes ago, something here you might have changed. Okay, intentionally you didn't change it, maybe few changes might have happened. So it will show you what the changes. Then if you again go to master, it will show you till master branch what are all things has come here. So this is first developer change, and if you see history, it will show you what are all history. It will say that these are all initially added. Okay, so from GitHub repository itself, you can see complete code of your application. Then you can see here during that master branch, these are the status, and then you will go to change your branch to some other, and that branch history also you can see. Suppose I selected this and I want to see history. So it will say what are all steps it came. First GitHub created, then added the project into the solution, GitHub, then added a product model class. So if you give proper comments, these comments will be coming on the history, right? So branch wise, how to keep your changes, so that if by chance somebody says we are not happy with these changes, you revert it back to master, then you can go here and get the master. How to get master now? Again, you just click on master. Now all your previous changes will go. Now you will not see your model class called product model, but it will be there in repository, not in the local computer. Again, suppose you want to go to that branch and make some modifications, you can click here to that branch and make some modification and then check in. Suppose you came to know that what mistake you did in product. Maybe it is supposed to be string, you made it integer, whatever. You made the changes and then test one more round, then push it. So whatever new changes, you will see it here and you can push it. So how to create a new branch and how to put the files into this. Then check in, check out, automatically it will happen when you go for any of the branch and start modification, it will automatically check out. Suppose I click on this and I started modifying something. Can you see this tick mark? That is called, checkout. Checkout means tick mark. And this lock symbol means no checkout, no check-in. It is previous version. It's already logged. So once you changed it, it will call the file is in checkout mode. Check-in means you go here and check in. Okay, so these are the terminology we use for understanding that check-in, checkout. So checkout means we are making some changes from the repository. Check-in means we are giving some changes to the repository. So suppose that changes you want to push now, then same thing, you have to give some comment and then commit. Okay, then you push. So always two steps, check-in, and directly you double click and open the file and modify, that is called checkout. So these are few general operations you can do. We have more things to do with Azure site. We will continue next class, guys.